a company has to have at least one person who is championing. Did I say that right? Championing culture. I don't know if that's a word, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm trying to say. They are a champion of your company culture. Yeah. They are, and I look back and I think about when we kind of made that discovery at our summit. I started thinking back about like, okay, the environments that I worked in that had the best culture, we had a culture champion. And the environments that I look back in and we didn't have the best culture, we didn't have a culture champion. We had people that would talk about like having great culture, but no one really carried the torch, right? And I think what we've learned this year more than anything else is whether you bring on the culture base or not, you have to have somebody on your team that's carrying the torch. It doesn't mean you have to have like a whole job title centered around it. It doesn't mean that you have to go out and hire somebody specifically to do that thing 40 hours a week necessarily, but it does mean you have to have somebody who cares passionately enough about it and has the platform and the authority to do something about it. Culture Base Podcast. I'm Dustin. He's Blake. We're the Culture Base. We have arrived. The ship has landed on the moon. We are at episode. I'm just going, we landed on the moon. I mean, it feels like it a little bit. Hopefully, there's not there is technically a third guy here who never got out. Remember, I was just listening to a podcast recently where they're talking about the third guy that never got out of the spacecraft on the moon. That there was a third guy that was just in there the entire time and never got out when they first landed on the moon. Like, how crazy is that?
Yeah, you're like 10 feet away.
Yeah.
Right?
Just go ahead and do it. Anyway.
Just do it.
We may or may not, but definitely do have a person like that who's on our team, but never on a podcast episode. So he doesn't get to claim 100. I'm saying it right now. 100 episodes of the Culture Based Podcast. Thankful that y'all are still listening to us because we're here strictly to help leaders know what they're about, show where they're going, and develop scalable teams to get them there. We don't have a title necessarily for this episode. The working title as of the time of this recording is Culture is 100. I would like to asterisk that was Blake's idea, not mine. It's 100.
100.
I don't say something is 100, but I do. That is my confirmation phrase when someone says something and I agree. I go, 100.
Well, I think the kids today say that's 100. I think
do they? Because I feel like that might have been a while ago, and now they're on the whole 6-7 thing.
It might be true because those kids are probably not kids anymore.
No, those kids are. We're
hiring. Like I'm still 12, so you got that whole paradigm.
Anyway, so today on episode 100, it's going to be a little bit of a mixed bag. We wanted to kind of like take a look back a little bit at some of our favorite moments. I want to talk about kind of what we've learned about company culture along the way through these first 100 episodes. And when I say we, I really mean me and Blake, not necessarily you as a listener. If you have things that you learned along the way, drop them in the comments, whatever you're listening or watching on. It'd be amazing to hear from that as well. But so we want to talk about what we learned along the way. We want to talk about kind of what we see, a little bit of a state of the union, if you will, for company culture as we wrap up 2025. And then what's next for Culture Base in 2026? I want to speak into that a little bit, tease some things that we're super excited about. But yeah, let's get into it. Blake, do you have any kind of favorite moments or favorite aspects of the show that we've done here in the first 99 episodes? We can't really celebrate the full 100 because this is 100. See what I did there?
I did.
All right.
I saw that. So I'll probably ruin all of this and say, have you heard your Spotify Wrapped yet?
Yeah.
Have you gone through it?
Oh yeah.
How old are you in your Wrapped?
26.
That's cool, man.
That's cool. I was going to guess yours. I was like, I know what you listen to. And I'm like, it's got to be upper 50s, low 60s. So yeah 67. Sarah's is in the 60s. My wife, Sarah, is in the 60s as well. Because same reason, a lot of classical music.
Classical, brown noise, those kind of things that. the bring it home. So
Yes.
anyway, I was
Spotify
thinking,
Rap says, this just in, you're weird and old.
yeah. Yeah. They kind of gave the genres, and at the end they were like, we're not sure. Not sure about you. Like how
Unsure.
yeah.
Enigma.
But maybe this is a culture wrapped, right? Like maybe that's what it is more.
Ooh,
so
culture wrapped.
yeah,
I like
so
it.
it's more of a, the year is wrapped, and it's nice that it happens to be episode 100 at the same time. That's kind of a cool little happenstance. We could not have planned that.
And we call it culture wrapped. People are going to think, are they stopping the show? We got to listen to it. And I'll just tease it and say, you got to wait till the end to find out.
Yeah, we're not, but wait till the end.
Come on.
Okay.
They got to keep them on the hook. It's called a tease, Blake. They call it a tease.
Yeah, well, I think we already said what's next for TCB in 2026.
Well, we didn't say what's next. What's next could be, and that's a wrap, but it's not.
And that's a wrap. So, okay, well, maybe I was joking there. So we go back to favorite moments. I don't remember what book I was listening to recently, but it was talking about how, yes, I do. What's that one? It was like, it's pretty popular right now. It's like almost like So What is kind of the idea.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Dang it.
It'll come to me here in a minute because I'm off screen going to be looking at what it's called.
Yeah.
But the idea, like it was talking about, not even what the book is about, but it was talking about friendship and how friendship is, dang, I gotta find this. Let Them. That's what it is.
Let Them. Let Them. So close. I was like a click away.
Yeah, I picked So What. It's like, that's not what it is. It's
Let Them.
Actually, Let Them.
You know what? So what? Let them.
So what? I don't care.
So what? Let them.
The thing that it was talking about that I thought was really impactful was how when you think about growing up, we maybe get misconstrued about how we grow in friendships, right? We think it's organic, it's easy, but the reality is a lot of what we grew up with was being around a group of people for a ridiculous amount of hours. And a lot of your geography, a lot of the school you went to kind of determined a lot of those things. And so you could grow in friendships quicker because you hit that, I think they call it 1,000-hour rule. And so you're with people for that 1,000 hours, you grow, you have moments of which you have to like build and trust. And then you go to college and then you have that maybe even more so. If you go to college and do the whole dorm life and stuff, then you're even more hours with people. And then as we get older, that's like the after point, we start getting older and it takes a lot more intentionality to build that and a lot more of those moments. And so for me, I love, and I say this a lot, like one of the greatest joys in life is getting to do business with your friends and getting to be around your friends and do these things. And having these intentional moments, even like this right now, being on a podcast together, like we have to schedule that. That's not sexy. Like we have to like work hard to go do those things, but then we're in a place to have those relationships, even though Dustin's in Georgia and I'm in Indianapolis right now, like we're still having those intentional moments. And so, we think we're talking business culture and all this stuff, but culture is really environment for growth, significance, and purpose, right? And so here we are in this moment. It's just a great time to be intentional. And in order to have that kind of culture, and it would be really dumb if a culture podcast did not have good culture, right? It takes intentionality. It takes a lot of it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's what I would say.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I just thinking through as we're planning this episode and we're thinking about things that we want to talk about, thinking through this favorite moments is not necessarily like there was this one moment on this one show, on this one episode. It's really more about collectively the moments, plural, and echo very similar to what Blake is saying, like getting to grow this business with my friend And to have a an intentional, to piggyback off of his idea, have an intentional time set aside for us to have honest discussions around a topic that we're both passionate about. I often go back to anytime I'm recording a podcast with a friend, because I run a couple different podcasts and a couple different shows, and anytime I've had a podcast with a friend, I always think back to comedian Aaron Weber put out a video. I think he put it out towards the beginning of this year, where him and a friend were sitting on the back porch recording a podcast. They each had their own microphones or whatever, and they're talking, and kind of, you can tell it's at the end of the episode, the clip that he shared. He goes, "Man, I got to be honest with you. We're not recording. In fact, this is not even a podcast. Like, I don't have a podcast." And he goes, "These microphones, they're not even plugged into anything." And he goes and brings the cord up, and they're not plugged into anything. He goes, and his friend goes, "So we're just two dudes talking?" He goes, "Yeah, I needed a good reason in 2025 to be able to have a conversation with my friend. And the only way I thought I could do it was a podcast." He's like, "So we're just two dudes talking?" He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." And so I often lose myself in these episodes. And those are my favorite moments, when it just feels like we're just hanging out, having a conversation about a topic that we're both super passionate about. You guys, as far as what was like most played, listened to situation this year, episode 83 was. So we got our Spotify wrap just like everybody else did. And because we contribute to the Spotify creators platform, we learned that episode 83, which was understanding generational differences, was our most played episode on Spotify. And then on YouTube, most popular short that we put out, because we started adding a lot more shorts this year. If you haven't noticed that, dropping little nuggets, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube. We're dropping nuggets throughout the week from some of these episodes, because we did shift these episodes from every week to every other week. And so we're dropping nuggets from the episodes throughout the week. So go ahead and subscribe to that on YouTube. But for the I guess it'd be more Gen Z population probably listening or watching these shorts, right? For them, most popular short to date since we started doing those is about reliability, which I found interesting. Now, it's a funny clip. It's a funny clip about us joking about participation trophies, which could seem a little millennial mean. But go back and watch the clip, watch the episode, discover it for yourself. But any other favorite moments, Blake, before we move on to our next section?
Nah, I don't think so.
All right, so we want to talk about what we've learned about company culture along the way, because we often say this on the show, like we're learning as much, like we have it all figured out. Like we both own companies individually and together, and we are learning what works and what doesn't work when it comes to company culture. And I'll say for me, and I know Blake will say this too, because and hopefully he has another one, and it's not just like, yep, same one. But we've learned, as we kind of did like a little summit up in Indianapolis recently, where we were kind of talking about this topic. Hey, what did we learn this year about company culture? What did we learn about this in our business? And I'll tell you, I've learned, and I kind of knew, like, hey, this is probably pretty important, but you could also just hire us. But more so, I've learned more than anything else, Blake, is that a company has to have at least one person who is championing, did I say that right? Championing culture. I don't know if that's a word, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm trying to say. They are a champion of your company culture. Yeah. They are, and I look back and I think about when we kind of made that discovery at our summit. I started thinking back about, like, okay, the environments that I worked in that had the best culture, we had a culture champion. And the environments that I look back in and we didn't have the best culture, we didn't have a culture champion. We had people that would talk about like having great culture, but no one really carried the torch, right? And I think what we've learned this year more than anything else is, whether you bring on the culture base or not, you have to have somebody on your team that's carrying the torch. It doesn't mean you have to have like a whole job title centered around it. It doesn't mean that you have to go out and hire somebody specifically to do that thing 40 hours a week necessarily, but it does mean you have to have somebody who cares passionately enough about it and has the platform and the authority to do something about it. Like we have to, you have to have that on your team. So that's probably my biggest takeaway this year, because we've learned some things along the way working with clients that if we don't have that, it's just not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that was the biggest one that I had as well. But I think that when you think of culture champion, that's fuzzy. But one of the aspects of this cultural champion that I think, you can have a cultural champion who doesn't really champion culture when they're not a good communicator. And I think that culture is communicated. It's like if there's some yin yang, culture and communication are like heavily connected or intertwined at some level. And it's almost like if you took a Venn diagram and you had like the big circle of culture and then the big circle of communication, the sweet spot obviously being in the middle. You've got to have someone who can communicate all aspects in and out of the culture. And so I think that's a big one. Another one that I've thought about is just there is a lot of presumption at leadership or whatever like that about culture. If leadership thinks their culture is horrible, it tends to never be as horrible as you actually think it is. And vice versa, when a leader thinks that their culture is infallible, it tends to have a lot of chinks that they've just ignored. And so, and if you think it's pretty mid, maybe it's mid, I don't know. But the idea here is just...
He's loading this episode with phrases that I think no one uses anymore, but also they could. I know Blake uses it. No one knows. No one knows.
But just at the end of the day, I think it's healthy to your assumption of your culture probably needs to be held with some open hands that are not so clinched on, oh no, it's this, it's absolutely this. And because we did this one time, we must be that good at doing this thing. Oh yeah, our company is great. We went out on a retreat one year, and you're like, yeah, when was that? And you're like, 2010. It's like, well, I think maybe it's time to kind of regroup because, 15 years has gone by. So I think that's one of the ahas I've had as well. And just coming to see what variables affect at large culture, and that culture being the environment, like, can be affected negatively from so many different angles. And it isn't so simple to say, if you do this, your culture will be great. It may be true that that'll help your culture be great, but we can't bank on the idea that one variable or two variables is enough and that everything else, like, we don't really have to gauge anything else. That's personally like why I love the culture base, even my company using the culture base, is because I don't always have margin to dive into what are the things I need to be able to know about my culture without being deeply intricate into my culture, but I need to know for healthy decisions. Yeah. And I think that's one of those areas that's challenging if you don't have a full-time person diving into that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, let's get into kind of the state of company culture today. Like, what are we seeing in the landscape in 2025 of what does it mean for what does culture at an organization mean? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Is it working? Is it not working? Do people care or not care? I'll tell you, Blake, I do think it's it hasn't necessarily lost. Like, if we're looking at the trend of culture in the workplace and people starting to care about it, like, I definitely think, 2025? I'd probably say 10 years ago, 10 to 12 years ago, we started to kind of see the rise of like people starting to really care and talk about, similar to like how mental health is a discussion now that people are comfortable having, right? That before people didn't talk about it because they couldn't really put words to it, but over time we've put language to it. And we kind of saw it kind of go, up into the right here. And you see, I think we've kind of, I don't want to say we've plateaued, but it's definitely, I think, been accepted as a normal topic of conversation for sure. Like, when someone brings it up now, it's not like what are you talking about? It's like yep. That's one of the many things that we need to be looking at when we're looking at if you're looking at a dashboard of your company, right? One of the things that one of the kind of the scales that you need to be kind of paying attention to is your company culture. And I do see that people are paying attention to it and making it more accessible, like now more than ever. I have a few more, but what do you think?
No, I agree with that completely. I mean, even with the rise of like organizational psychologists and a lot of platforms and podcasts and stuff like Adam Grant, Simon Sinek, Brene Brown, you have these thought leaders who have really invested a lot of time in this idea at large. And even though it is about more than just, like culture, it's also very entwined in culture. Yeah. And so everything they talk about still has some kind of connection there. The thing I'm seeing currently that I'm like, okay, is there's obviously like the economy is whatever the economy is. The state of our country is whatever the state of our country is. I'm making zero political statement here, by the way. I'm just talking about how these things have affected business and how there has been a contraction and a holding money. And this is not a statement on tariffs. There was a ton of tariff confusion this year that caused a lot of people to act or absolutely not act. And so because of a lot of these things, what I've seen is a lot of hesitation to invest. And because when you start looking at everything financially, you see it as expense and not investment. And so that's one of the areas that you start to see a lot of these things like, we got to cut this, we got to cut this, we got to cut this. Instead of, hey, is this an investment? We wouldn't be like, oh, things are tight. I think I need to pull everything out of my 401k. I mean, maybe you would, but it's like, it's not doing well in the market. I might as well have the cash. Yeah, but we have also seen that the majority of money that has been made in the market happened in like 10 physical days out of 30 years. And so when did those 10 days happen? Nobody knows. And so the practice is so important, and investing in that practice is what's important. That's not to say you don't look at the things you're doing and say, hey, do we need to scale back a little on this type of thing? And maybe it's more sweat that we need to invest in instead of dollars, 100%, right? But what I am saying is that sweat does mean something to your team as well. And so I would just say that I think this is the easiest thing to cut first, but I don't think it's the wisest thing.
Yeah. And I think to piggyback off of that too, my next one too, is I think because of that confusion that you're speaking about, Blake, that I feel like CEOs right now, at least the ones that I interact with, are more unsure of what they need, like now more than ever. And I think we see that too in the rise, like you're talking about, of the organizational psychology type of stuff that we've seen. Like people wouldn't be listening to that if they were sure.
Well said.
Like CEOs wouldn't be listening to that if they were certain of what they need. But they're uncertain, I think. And I think this is why I love what we do at the Culture Basis, because it's a with situation, not a forced, not a done for you situation. It's a with situation. And it's not a DIY situation either, where we're saying, here's everything you should be doing. Good luck. Like, it's more like, I love being able to come alongside CEOs and watch the light bulb go off when they realize what it is that they actually need. And then they go, okay. And like Blake was saying, and the light bulb switch could be from expense to investment, right? It could be from hiring or downsizing. It could be from adding these department heads versus, training someone up to do it instead. Like all these different things that affect company culture. I do see that CEOs are probably more uncertain of these moves now more than ever. And I'll just say, speaking of organizational psychology, I'll say this too, and I don't know this is the case for all of them. I have talked to other CEOs, and I do know that there are others out there that feel this way besides just me. Also, as a CEO of my own company, like I feel like I had this conversation a lot. I'm 41 years old. I have this conversation a lot with people my age, and I go, "Do you still feel in your mind, obviously not your body, but in your mind, like you have no idea what you're doing and you're just trying to figure out things day by day?" And they go, "You know what, man, if I'm honest with you, yeah, I do feel like that most days." Now, the prideful ones will say, no, I've got it all together, and they'll never admit that. But I do think that a lot of us, like, I remember as a kid, like, this is going to go a little deep for a second, but I remember as a kid how much my dad reminisced on his younger days. And now that I'm my dad's age, when I heard him reminisce about his younger days, I don't think it was so much. It was definitely a little bit of nostalgia because my dad grew up in the 60s and had like this kind of Leave It to Beaver type of like community around him, which was super cool. But also like I think what he was trying to tell me in those moments is I still feel mentally the same way I did then when I was a scared young man and didn't know what I needed to do or wanted to do and was just trying to figure it out day by day.
Yeah.
And I think we have more of those leading organizations than what we care to admit, because I think we have more of those all across top to bottom on the org chart. And we're all like, that's one thing that calms me down. I'm going to have a little bit of a rant here. Then one of the things that calms me down as a business owner is to look around, and I'll use Blake as an example. Blake, one of the sharpest, most business acumen minded people that I know. And I will always go to him for advice and wisdom. But I do know, and Blake doesn't have to admit it on this podcast, but I do know that he's just trying to figure it out too. Just trying to figure it out. And so when I look at someone like Blake that I admire and respect and follow so much, and I go, he's also still just trying to figure it out. And it kind of calms it down and takes the pressure off of me a little bit and goes, we're all in this together and we're all just trying to figure it out. That was a bit of a rant, but I think that where we're at right now is I don't think we've gotten to the point where people are willing to admit it yet, but I can see the writing on the wall.
And with that, and I don't know if this is in line with anything else we're talking about.
I don't think what I just said was in line with what we're talking about.
Well, what you were just talking about was very significant in that, like, do you ever get out of that headspace? And it sounds like the answer is no. We don't ever get out of a place where we aren't some child who's trying to figure things out. Sure, we come to understanding, but that just opens up more doors, right? Like that's all it is you open the one door and you think it's the end result and you see 7 more doors and it's like, oh, I'm back in that headspace. And I think the thing I would say to myself and to all of us in those moments is, if that's true, then stop waiting to be in a headspace where you understand it all, because you're not going to come to it. And all you're doing is perhaps wasting time of a body that is breaking down, of a energy that is waning, of finances that could be getting impact. Like, this is the reason to risk and be courageous. Yeah. This is it right here.
Yeah. You're alive right now, right here today. For a reason, so get after it. And that's the kind of stuff that gets me out of bed in the morning for sure. All right, enough of that tree stump talk. Let me just wrap up one other thing that I'm seeing here, and I don't really know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, Blake, but I am noticing, and I don't think it's because of company culture per se, but I think it affects company culture greatly, is that we're starting to see more employees starting their own business, whether it be in the same field as a competitor or something completely different, because taking it back to like what we were just talking about, they've decided like, hey, I'm not getting any younger and I want to do this thing and be my own boss. Now, I will say that comes with obviously a load of well, it comes with a whole new mental load, right? And then you have the companies that are left behind that maybe one of their best employees decided to go start their own business. So I'm starting to see the beginning phases of that tension in the marketplace as a whole.
Yeah.
You have anything else on the state of company culture right now? Cool. Let's get into our final section. What is next for TCB in 2026? Now, Blake already ruined it. We're not rapping.
Nothing.
We're not rapping. We're not rapping. We're rapping 2025. And frankly, we're rapping 2025, Blake. Extremely grateful. You know, we just got together in Indianapolis to kind of talk through these things of what we learned and what happened in 2025 as we prepare for 2026. And there was just an overwhelming sense of gratitude of, I can't believe that because Blake and I have been, you know, talking and dreaming about this for years. And now in 2025, it's profitable. And now we're changing company cultures, you know, all over the country, and it's happening. So extremely grateful in that regard. But for 2026, I think we're super excited, Blake, to kind of even continue to narrow further down into our exact, to use a phrase that you may or may not understand, our exact calling as a company, to really kind of niche in with what our services and what our offerings are going to bring. And so up to this point, it's been a lot of just like conversational come alongside will help you build the things that you need to build. But moving forward, like we're going to be offering some software to help you do that. Some of the stuff that we've been talking about with the A player, as we've been kind of in the middle of this series right now, we're pausing that to do this wrapped. And then we'll continue it in January, which we could talk about that a little bit more. We have some partnerships that we're really excited to pursue. And then I'll just say we have some custom features. I don't necessarily want to give away the whole thing. We have some custom features that we're super excited to kind of offer you. But again, going back to offering it to the company that has that culture champion, we've kind of niched down to go, got to have a culture champion. We've touched into some coaching towards the second half of 2025, and we've seen some great results in that. And when I say coaching, it's not necessarily CEO coaching. It could be. But what we've learned is that a lot of culture hinges upon the organizational health of your mid managers. And my coaching sessions with these mid managers, I explain it to them that they're the only ones that really lead 360 degrees within the organization. That the guys at the top, they get to lead. They get to lead parallel, right? They get to lead kind of in their peripheral, right? Amongst each other, right? And then they get to lead down. But there's no one for them to lead up to because they're at the top. The guys at the bottom, they get to lead peripherally, right? And they get to lead up, but there's no one for them to lead down to. The guys in the middle, they get to lead their peripheral. They get to lead up to their bosses, but then they also get to lead down because they have people that report to them as well. And so the biggest culture carriers we've been seeing is in that mid-level management. And so we've been emphasizing the growth and development of their leadership skills and their culture skills is something that we've been doing and super excited about. A few other things here, Blake, but you want to jump in?
Yeah, I think the big why of anything we're doing in 26, as we sat there for a couple days, literally just came to the word clarity, is that our job is to provide clarity. Because if somebody comes in to a hospital, to an ER scenario, and has been in some car wreck, they're going to have a lot of wounds. But there is one wound that is more important than another wound. And the idea is, where is focus go, right? Focus, I was thinking this the other day. At one point, I thought money was the most important. Then I was like, nope, time's the most important. And now I will say, no, focus is the most important. Okay. So like I've gone through different times in my life where I found those, and it probably was important at those levels or whatever. But what I'm realizing is that time not taken advantage of is not It's not important. It's a loss of importance. There needs to be focus. And in order to have good focus, you have to be clear on where to put that focus. And so everything in 26 we're doing is about helping organizations know where, like if we say, hey, your relationship with manager is not that great right now, as far in your organization, that's still like, it's clear, but it's not clear. And it's like, okay, well, is it in the one-on-one? Is it in the way that, things are pushed down into the entry level or to the lower level of an organization? Is it just not being communicated well? Is it that they don't trust? Is it that there's so many variables? Like I was saying earlier, there isn't just one variable that's clear. And you could have great, charismatic mid-manager leaders who people feel really good with, but are still afraid to talk to. And so it's not a clear thing to be like, oh, that's the issue. Well, that kind of level of clarity then says, hey, I've only got so many energy units to put towards this right now. It's about laser focusing where to put those energy units. And so whether it's software, coaching, anything else, that's the point. It's providing clarity for intentional focus.
Yeah. And I think one thing that we ended up to in that clarity conversation was understanding that, yes, you need a culture champion, but all of these things that we're thinking about or that we are going to be offering with coaching, with quarterly strategic meetings, with culture champion and leadership and different things like that we've been working on, the different softwares, the partnerships, the features that we're going to be unrolling, that they really all at the end of the day help serve you as if you had your very own chief culture officer. And some of the best companies in the world have that position. So really what we're going to be kind of positioning ourselves as moving forward in 26 is this fractional chief culture officer. And it's fractional because it's a fraction of the price. Like it's not going to cost you 6 figures plus to get our team to serve with you in that role. And so I'm just super excited, again, super grateful for everything that we've accomplished in 2025 up to this point. Really excited for 2026. It's going to be amazing. We've got, this is our last episode for 2025. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays to everybody. And then in January, we're going to pick back up where we left off with the A Player series. We're going to finish that out strong. Excited to continue that conversation with you. And we'll talk to you then on the Culture Based Podcast. That's Culture Wrapped.